You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Boom! This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me
Hello and welcome to episode 253 of Making Tracks, brought to you by those fine folk over at fanthtracks.com. My name's Mark, one of your co-hosts, and joining me this week is the man, the myth, and the fabled folk legend, that is Mr. Mark Newbold. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. I must have took it ages to think up. I'm very, very well, Mark. How are you?
No, it didn't. It really didn't, as you could tell. I'm very well, thanks, buddy. Yeah, just back from my little sojourn around Greece with Elixir, with the band, and it's been fun. Back to work tomorrow, unfortunately. So very excited to cram in this record before then. So
yes.
How's things been in the world of Fantha Tracks and Star Wars for you?
Very busy. Surprisingly, considering the 50th is next year, not this year, it's non-stop, but I like it non-stop. It's good.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, just to pull the curtain back to what happens before we hit the big red record button, we were talking about our diaries for like the next 6-10 months, and it is pretty crazy. For one reason or other, be it conventions or trips away or, in my case, gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's full on. And like you said, it's not even the 50th anniversary year.
I know. I don't know how we're going to cope next year, because you imagine it's only going to be busier.
Yeah, you would hope so, unless like something happens and for one reason or another it goes deathly quiet.
Someone hits delete on Disney Plus and everything goes. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, you can just imagine.
Look, sir, droids.
Echo Base have announced, and it's no big shock, that Echo will be back in the autumn. It will be back at Redditch at the Kingfisher Centre for the 19th time. They put a social media post out of the Look Sir Droids Stormtrooper from A New Hope lifting up the little greebly bit from 3PO and not the greebly bit that was on the trading card. So we have to wonder, what would the topic be? They always do a theme. Last one was Unmasked. They've done Endor ones. They've done Battle of Hoth ones. They've done all sorts of beautiful stuff. They theme their guests. This one being the Stormtroopers. What do you think it might be? I mean, do you think it, looks at droids? So do you think it's a droids one? Do you think it's a Tatooine-based one? Do you think it's a Stormtrooper one? What do you think it might be?
Do you know what, that's the thing? Because I was like, is it really obvious and it's a Stormtrooper, maybe like Anthony Forrest kind of announcement? Or is it actually they've kind of gone for a little bit more subtle and it's gone for droids? I don't know if it's going to, I mean, it could be Tatooine when they do the more environmental ones, when we do that, or like Hoth and that, it's a broader selection of signers they can get. Yeah, my money's probably, I'm going to say it's going to be in the Troopers, I think.
I'm going to say, because you can hear the guy say, looks at droids, I'm going to say it's a droids one. I'm going to pitch my tent in the most family-friendly way and say that I think it's droids. That's my guess. I mean, those guys, they don't hang around. I think they'll announce it pretty soon, what the topic will be and what the name of the show will be. But regardless of that, October time, we would imagine, we'll all be getting back together at the Kingfisher. You and me were doing another walk around Making Tracks episode, which is always great fun. So looking forward to that already.
Absolutely.
More convention news. John Boyega, he's been in the news. He was at MegaCon at the weekend over in Orlando. And whilst he was on stage talking about this and talking about that, a fan in the crowd shouted out that he should talk to Dave Filoni in regards to possibly coming back as Finn. And quickly as that, he shouted back, I actually have, big with the actuallys, which implies that he has had discussions with Dave Filoni, that they may have already taken place. He may have just been given a glib reply. It might just be as casual as the response makes it sound, or there could be more to it. What's your gut telling you, Mark? Because that's a big statement for John to be making. But in regards to this, do you think that Filoni is thinking of that set of characters right now. I mean, he's got Ahsoka Season 2 coming probably back end of this year, and we've got Mando and Grogu a matter of short weeks away, and Starfighter is its own thing. But do you think Further Adventures of Finn is kind of in Filoni's wheelhouse at the moment?
Whether or not it's in his wheelhouse, I don't know, but maybe might be more of a priority for higher up for Disney, perhaps. I'm thinking with the Daisy Ridley Rey film kind of in pre-production, Quagmire, if it's gone anywhere, that might be something that he's been charged with. It's like, how can we get the future Star Wars off the ground? I guess ultimately, one way or another, maybe Disney kind of think, well, they invested quite a bit on the sequel trilogy, and obviously it's made its money back and then some. However, you don't just want to have these characters for 3 films. You want to use them and really carve that as a new legacy. So maybe it's, what can we do with Finn, or what can we do with John? Because John's a fantastic actor, screams charisma like nobody off and on the screen. So therefore, let's utilise him. I would love to see some kind of continuation of Finn's story, whatever it is.
I agree. And also I think now we're getting to that stage where Force Awakens came out now 11 years ago. So you've got kids from anything between 5 and 6 who are now mid-teens, or kids that were in their early teens and now in their mid-20s, and kids who were in their late childhood years, 16, 17, are now pushing 30, which is crazy. So some of those guys are having kids. And to them, and you see it a lot on social media, when I was a kid, I was running around in my Kylo Ren mask. And I'm like, oh, no, Kylo Ren only came out 5 minutes ago. It's a bit of a head. Yeah. When we were 10 years past Star Wars, when you first got into Star Wars, like Special Edition era, full on and all that malarkey, and then you step forward 10 years past that, you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't seem that long, but I guess it is.
It it really is. It's that window. It's that golden window of children who were, let's say, 5 up to like adolescence. Yeah. They're the people who you'd hope would have some kind of nostalgia to the sequel trilogy. And
that just sounds crazy you saying nostalgia for the sequel trilogy, but you're right. You're totally right.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And this is the whole thing, isn't it? Not the problem with Star Wars and not the problem with Star Wars fans per se, but one of the burdens of a multi-generational franchise is the fact that everybody has their entry point and the Star Wars that means the most to them. And so, it makes perfect sense as these people are growing up and start earning, or be it paper rounds or whatever, if they do paper rounds these days. I don't know. That's for the audience they want to attract, and especially if they're kind of out of the top tier, like you said, and they're starting to have kids, because they'd be like, God, I'm going to show you the Star Wars that I grew up watching, and they show them at episode 7, 8 and 9. It's just like
that is the bit that's frazzling my noodle. But you're totally right. And another thing you said about if you've got a great actor like Boyega, who hasn't done an awful lot lately, it's criminal, really. He should be on everything. But he's doing a lot of shows. So I think he's feeling the love for the fandom again, and he's feeling the vibe. And so maybe it's the stars aligning. Maybe this is just the teeing up for something to come. But something you said really struck me, in that you've got a great actor, you've got great characters. We're in Star Wars. It's a sandbox, and it's a monster sandbox because we're bouncing around the timeline a lot. And we could go back thousands of years if we wanted to and start a whole new thing there, or leap 100 years on like Dark Horse did with Legacy and start something else there. There's loads of things we could do if we wanted to do. But if you've got an actor like John Boyega, who you can bring back and pick up with Finn, I'm not saying he's going to be in Starfighter, but there might be a Daisy film or a Daisy trilogy, a Rey-focused trilogy. And, who wouldn't want to see those guys back together again? Yeah.
Well, you could almost see that there's a potential that a slight sequel trilogy wrong might be tried to be kind of corrected if they were to do another trilogy by getting, let's call them the big 3 of the sequel trilogy back together. So John, Daisy. And, well, it'd have to be Oscar, really, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah, it's because it's a tough one, because it's like, really, it's 4, because it's John, Daisy, Oscar, and Adam Driver.
Well, we've just had Stephen Colbert announced as being involved in a new Lord of the Rings spin-off.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So doesn't that make The Hunt for Ben Solo the hottest property in Hollywood once again?
You would think so, yeah. And the thing is, actually, John Boyega, isn't Attack the Block 2 coming out at some point?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I don't know
exactly. Pre-production, I think so.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But, that's going to put him back right in people's line of sight. But when you've got these characters, you just mentioned it is 4 with more than it is with the other trilogies, really. Yeah. The sequel trilogy is 4. It's not a big 3, it's a big 4. So the opportunities, the nostalgia, it sounds weird us saying it, but the nostalgia for those characters now. And whatever they do, you're probably talking 2-3 years away. So you're looking at 15 years on. So it probably does kind of line up.
Yeah, I think so. I still kind of have a slight glimmer. It's just a small glimmer that it would be nice to tie the sequel trilogy in with what's going on with some of the other properties. You know, Starfighter. I would like to see some kind of cameo from the sequel trilogy. Definitely.
Hello, my name is Aidan Cook, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Another thing involving Boyega is that he is appearing, and this is big news, he's appearing 7th and the 9th of August at the Frisco Convention Center in Frisco in Texas. John Boyega's just been announced for Rebel Scum Con. They've got a fantastic lineup of guests already as it is. There's a fanboys reunion. You've got Giancarlo Esposito there. You've got Denise Goff there. Cole Sollers there. There's plenty of Andor and Mando, and there's ILM people, Skywalker Sound people with David Accord. You've got Mike Pangrazio from ILM. You've got Lorne Peterson from ILM. You've got Alistair Petrie from Andor, Dorian Kinji from Book of Boba Fett, Manny Jacinto from Acolyte. They've even got Sean Patrick Flannery from the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles going there.
There you go.
And now they've just announced Boyega. So, again, that just adds another wrinkle to the potential of him getting more involved. You know, this is a high-profile show that's taking place in August. And great guest list. And there's Boyega right in the thick of it. So let's see where this one goes.
I'm Derek Arnold, and I get my news from Fantha Tracks.
So we return to Surrey Star Wars Weekend in November 2025, and Paul Naylor, who sat down with Jonathan Cass. Jonathan Cass was an ISB agent in both seasons of Andor. So here's Paul and Jonathan having a good old chat at Smuggler's Surrey Star Wars Weekend.
So I'm with Jonathan Cass, who many of you will recognise from Andor, because you've got quite a striking look, if you don't mind me saying, sir. You've got your mop of very blonde hair. You've got that sort of... Now, look, don't take this the wrong way. You're not a nasty Nazi look. You've got a nice... if you know what I mean. And that's something that you've done in Indiana Jones, for example, yeah?
Yeah, I've made a career out of either looking like an Earth Nazi or a space Nazi. So, yes, and I'm quite happy to...
But you're a nice chap, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a nice chap, yeah, but on screen I'm not so nice. But it got me into the film and TV industry in the first place.
Yeah.
Because there was a TV series called SSGB a few years ago, based on a book about... It's an alternative history where Germany have won the Second World War.
Yes, I do recall
occupied
it.
England,
timeline,
and a British detective and a German detective get together to solve a crime.
Yeah.
And because I look like a Nazi, I contacted the agency and I said, "You've got to book me on this. I look like a Nazi." And a week later I signed up with the agency, and less than another week later I was booked on this production as a Nazi. So it basically got me into the industry. Yeah.
I mean, you don't mind that, do you? I mean,
I love it.
It's getting you work, so it's all good.
Do you know what? I'd rather do this than... I don't want to be granddad. I don't want to be someone's dad.
Yeah.
I want to be a nasty person. I want to be the next James Bond baddie. So
that would be amazing.
If anyone's listening, I'm free.
I could see you as that.
Yeah, I'm free for that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
So, Andor, you're in seasons 1 and 2, or season 1?
Season 1 and 2.
And 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there much difference between the two experiences?
No. Well, the only difference is, of course, season 1, we didn't actually know how it was going to be received by the fans.
Yeah.
So that was the major difference. We were filming something that we didn't know whether it was going to work or not. But we had a good idea it was.
Yeah.
Because the quality of the production was so good. And then, of course, season 2, we knew the fans loved it.
Yeah.
So in that respect, season 2 was coming into a machine that you knew had already worked.
Yeah.
So we was even more excited about coming back for season 2.
And I think initially it's reasonably well known that there was intended to be more seasons than just the 2. So was that a slight disappointment that it was sort of squished down in terms of timeline, or?
Well, yes and no, because money, it cost a lot of money to make.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to make. So if they'd done 5 seasons, Diego Luna, Andor, he would have looked quite a bit older than he does at the beginning of Rogue One.
That's a very good point, and I must admit, that's something I did think of at the time. So I think you're right there, and really, he blends seamlessly from the end of Andor into Rogue One, so it did work well. Yeah,
but for those two reasons, money and time, time-wise, it was never going to work. So it had to be condensed into two. But I'm a little bit sad because I would have loved to have carried on my role as ISB officer.
So now, remind me, do we see the demise of your character at all? No. So there's opportunities in the future. You never know.
Or they might do a sideline. Where they go off into a different dimension time-wise. So there could be a spin-off. So
would be nice.
Again, anyone listening, I'm up for that.
So we've already mentioned Indiana Jones. How did that come about?
Basically, because I'd played a German officer in Nazi megastructures, SSGB, also a film called Allied with Brad Pitt and Marion Coulthard, released in 2017. I kind of got the look, and the agencies I'm with know I have this look. So when it came round to Indiana Jones, basically it was a shoe-in for me. And I got to film. We went up to Bamborough Castle, just
famous
Bamborough Castle on the coast. We saw some amazing sunrises because we did 6 nights of night shoots. Driving around in World War II vehicles, getting shot, blowing up, and and I'm watching Mr. Jones get dragged into the castle to be interrogated.
So were you on the set with Harrison at the time?
We did. We did the scenes at the castle. We did a night shoot at North York Moors Railway with Harrison, and then we went back to Pinewood Studios where we filmed a lot of the interior train scenes, where he's running through the train, on top of the train. We filmed a lot of those back at Pinewood Studios. So we got to spend a fair bit of time with Mr. Ford.
And have you got any projects coming up?
I have,
but you can't talk about them.
But I can't talk about them.
Well, it's good to know that you've got work coming up, sir.
There could possibly be a Star Wars production that I might be involved with, but that's as far as I'm going to go. And I've been filming on stuff, again, I'm sorry I can't talk about because they're not going to be released till next year. But some exciting stuff.
That's good. It's good to know that there is work beyond Andor. But Andor's certainly been very special for the fans. It's been universally very well received. I take it you were a Star Wars fan as a youngster?
I am a Star Wars fan, and I was a 12-year-old boy queuing up outside my cinema in Crawley to see Star Wars. It wasn't named A New Hope then.
Just called Star Wars.
It was just called Star Wars. And I remember as this 12-year-old boy and coming out super excited, realising I'd just seen an amazing sci-fi.
I bet you're chuffed to bits to have been in it then,
I mean, for me, to be in it as well. I mean, I love the film and TV industry. This is why I do it, because I love it. And to be a space Nazi in a Star Wars production
and an Earth Nazi
in an Indiana Jones production, it doesn't get much better.
What other type of Nazi could you be next?
Well, who knows?
Ghost Nazi?
A zombie Nazi. There we go.
There you go.
I'm putting it out there. So
That's brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Great news for lovers of all things Andor. It picked up multiple nominations at the 2026 BAFTA Television Craft Awards. It picked up 6, which is second only to 1,000 Blows, which had 7, and 11 for Adolescence, both of which star Stephen Graham. The awards are handed out on the 26th of April at the Brewery in London with host comedian Maisie Adam. It picked up nominations for costume design, director fiction, editing fiction, production design, sound fiction, special visual and graphic effects. 6 nominations. Absolutely fantastic. It's kind of brilliant that it's getting these nominations, but also it is, on the flip side, kind of sad that we didn't see more heftier nominations in that season. I know we've spoke about this before more than once, that the performances, the acting performances in that show was so strong. Now, Diego Luna did pick up some nominations and did win a Saturn Award, so it's not like they've been completely overlooked. But do you think with Andor, some films will get multiple nominations in certain categories where that film is competing against itself? And Andor, you could pick 4 or 5 really heavyweight performances. Do you think Andor had too many good performances in it for the voting people to whittle it down to 1?
Yeah, potentially, or not enough. But hear me out. I mean, every performance was fantastic and in our minds kind of stand out. But maybe because it's such an ensemble cast, maybe they couldn't find one actor to really hang their nomination on. Because basically what you have to do is, you know, as a production or a production company, you have to put them a nomination. So they would probably have like a little department who's putting all that stuff together so for nomination this season. Because I know that's what I get asked to do.
Being an industry professional as you are.
As an industry professional who's just been nominated for some stuff, yes.
Get it in there.
Just drop it in. Or at least for the productions that I've been working on. And that's the whole point, isn't it? It's like it takes a village to get anything now onto TV or the big screen, especially these prestige dramas about, you know. And so in some respects, big shiny awards, you know, the big ones that everybody remembers, like the, you know, best acting and all that. When you break it down, costume design, director, editing, production design, sound, and special visual and graphics, without those crafts, you just don't have an Andor. Full stop. And you don't have an Andor that maybe might be as emotional, especially editing. Star Wars is basically crafted and made in the edit bay. I think it's fair that these categories give the limelight that they deserve, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Andor wins. I don't think any of them are up against anything that I'm doing, so I can definitely say I hope Andor wins.
You know, with Star Wars, you always think ILM with the visual effects and Skywalker with the sound and other stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, Marsha Lucas, it's acknowledged, you know, that her edit pretty much pulled that film together. And so, you're right. And George always said he makes his films in the editing room, not on set. If you could pick one, you kind of, there's a little part of me would think it would be great if Jan Miles picked up the award for Best Editor, because you're right, it's integral to Star Wars.
And I think also with Star Wars, for costume design, obviously as somebody who's a costumer of that, we look at the costumes maybe more than other people. It's so integral because it tells its own story of the character. You can generally tell what the character's about based on their costume. It's not period, but at the same time, it is period when you think about it. All these costumes that they've done for every single Star Wars, you know, they're like timeless in some respects. So they don't really date. I mean, the hairstyles might date it a little bit, but the actual costumes and the silhouettes that those costumes produce don't date. And I think that is something that is very hard because, you know, when you go up against like Bridgerton with the big flowery, big floaty dresses and stuff, and it's harder. And Michael Wilkinson knocked it out of the park for both seasons of Andor. And so hopefully that gets acknowledged as well.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
In 1976, on the 22nd of March, somebody started rolling cameras on Star Wars for the first time. And we're now 50 years on from that. All the awards that have the films and the TV shows have been nominated for over those 50 years. There's probably not many, if any, franchise or film collection that has probably had as many nominations across the board in all the crafts.
With Star Wars now prevalent and strong on television, and Andor being like prime stake for that, really is. That's had insane nominations. Mando did as well. All of the shows have. And then add in, as you just said, all the TV stuff. And further to the thing you just brought up, 50 years since they started rolling, you know, the Uncle Owen droid scene was the first kind of thing that they shot. You know, Phil Brown and Jack Purvis were the first sort of actors interacting. Sadly, both no longer with us. But you think of over that time, that 50-year time span, as you said, every step, there's new people coming in. You know, your original trilogy era, then your post-Jedi era, and then the Dark Times, and then the resurgence with Heir to the Empire and Dark Empire, and then the Shadows of the Empire era, Special Edition era, prequel trilogy era, which is quite long. You know what I mean? And there's all these different parts and chunks of Star Wars with everything spinning and happening within it. You know, and a lot of different people involved, and it's quite overwhelming actually when you sort of start to break it down.
When you break it down, it is, and actually, that's the thing. Like when you break it down, it's very interesting how like you have a prequel trilogy. You know, ran from what, let's say 99 to 2005, but then it doesn't because it continues with the Clone Wars. And then it blends into like Rebels and that era. Then suddenly we're kind of in that kind of ping pong era of a sequel trilogy where you're kind of doing sequel trilogy and you're jumping back to before the OT, which actually I know we've talked about it, but I don't necessarily think it's a big issue. I mean, would you prefer Lucasfilm to keep their production limited to one era at a time?
Because we're in it.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever think about, here's a name drop. So I was at a Rancho Obi-Wan Gala talking to Matt Martin, who's now on the story group, but he was the editor of StarWars.com at the time, and I was writing for StarWars.com. And we had the whole conversation when Force Awakens had come out and Rogue One was coming out, and he was genuinely, I don't think I'm speaking out of school now, but he was genuinely concerned because he knew people who were like, what's with this Death Star? Is that a different Death Star? No, that's the original Death Star. Well, where's Rey? Is that girl, is there a new actress playing Rey? That's not Rey, that's Jyn. This is set before the original Star Wars. What, the one with the little kid in the hot rods? No, the original one from 77. And he was concerned that people wouldn't understand where Rogue One was set. Well, obviously Rogue One did $1 billion plus, so they got past that issue, you know, fair to say, but it's an understandable concern. So we're inside baseball in that we kind of know the geography of the timeline. But to your point, I do think there's probably marketeers and marketing people at Disney, more Disney than Lucasfilm, because Lucasfilm are inside the bubble as well, that would go, I wish you'd just do sequel trilogy stuff. What some of them must be thinking about what's happening at Galaxy's Edge, where half the park is sequel trilogy, half the park's OT. On one side of the country and the other one's just sequel. You know what I mean?
Kind of get the impression from Disney that you step into a Disney park and it kind of doesn't really matter which Disney park you step into. You kind of get a similar, or if not very similar experience. And I know there's subtle differences between like the Haunted Mansion in one place and then another and all that stuff. And hell, one of them speaks French.
Very clever, those Japanese.
But yeah, I mean, and I tell you what, when you actually look at it, you had a British brunette in Daisy Ridley, followed by a British brunette in Felicity Jones, and then you basically had a bigger Death Star, which was actually illustrated in Force Awakens, compared to like the Death Star in A New Hope, therefore in Rogue One. And so you can kind of see where things kind of like jump about.
You're forgetting the British brunette in Amelia Clark as well in Solo.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you kind of go, well, if this was the 1990s, at least in the trailers, they would have gone 15 years before the first Death Star. There would have been some kind of like much more overt kind of acknowledgement of where this is being placed.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, the marketing must have faith that there's enough channels, i.e. not necessarily like the official channels, but channels like Fantha Tracks and all the other Star Wars / Disney influencers who've been cloned out of nowhere in the last like 18 months or so are there and are, you know, engaging with enough people to spread that word organically so that they don't necessarily need to worry about that.
The thought that now we're in an era where we've got Starfighter 5 years after episode 9, we've got whatever the Rey thing ends up being, a film or a trilogy that's probably going to be set even further out beyond that. Dawn of the Jedi has gone very quiet, which is thousands of years before. That must be the gamble. That must be the one that made them a little bit sort of 5p, 50p.
But yeah, I mean, I would think, you would imagine that now, after, say, like this Mando film, depending on how well that does or doesn't do or all that, there's probably going to be a much more focus of Star Wars looking forward, unless it's such a catastrophically massive jump back. You know, obviously we would all welcome new OT-era films of some description, but you do start to think, is this the albatross around the franchise's neck? It just can't move past it. And actually, maybe the bold thing to do is either jump all the way back, but I would just say just jump forward 150 years or whatever forward and just, you know, kind of give it a bit of distance, give it a bit of space, you know.
You just said something that's got me thinking, you know, one of the smartest things Lucas ever did was seal down the likenesses of the actors for marketing purposes, for, you know, toys and yada yada, all the other stuff. And it was brilliant that, you know, Han Solo could look like Harrison Ford. Here we are, 50 years on from making Star Wars. Harrison Ford is now 83. Yeah. Carrie is no longer with us. Mark is in his 70s. And the technology is probably not that far away from quite comfortably now, I would say, and affordably. You're probably only talking 4 or 5 years, I would think, before you could have an actor go on stage and perform as Han Solo, and for the voice to be adjusted and the face to be adjusted, and it's basically Harrison Ford. So, and we've talked about this a billion times on Making Tracks before. It's not what I'm getting at. But I wonder now, if you mention Albatross around their neck, the original trilogy, in a way, and there's always the worry that you're going to step on some old storyline that you forgot about, and then your chronology issues, and we don't want that. It's, we need to get smarter with that in that sense. But if you didn't have that, the fact that, Harrison is the face of Han Solo, and you would just bring another actor in, then maybe you could do what I think they should do with Indiana Jones, and just cast another guy and tell stories in the era, because that 1930s era is just golden, action adventure era, romantic, exciting, and all the other stuff. Don't worry that this guy doesn't look exactly like Harrison Ford. Just get a guy that has that vibe of Indy, that vibe. It's got to have a bit of a Harrison vibe, but you know what I mean? And transpose that across all the cast.
Yeah. I mean, no, it would be a risky thing to do, but I think that would satisfy some fans. I think the problem is,
well, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
You're totally, you are completely damned either way, because at the end of the day, there will be people who will not be able to get past the fact that it's not Harrison Ford as Han Solo, as per indicated with Solo. Yeah, and Ordinary, I thought did a fantastic job.
He was brilliant.
I thought that as well. Yeah. And I just think some of these people, it doesn't matter what you do. Basically, they need to be dragged back in time into to 1977, 79, and just live there in a little happy kind of OT bubble where that's all there is. Yeah, and at least let the rest of us kind of get on with the fact that we want engaging Star Wars stories, and probably because I'm a Bond fan, maybe because you're a Trek fan and they've recast Kirk, I know almost as many times as they've recast Bond. It's sometimes a little bit jarring the first time, but after that first initial 15 minutes, normally you're like, stop trying to freaking compare him. And that's probably the problem with Solo, was that it felt a little bit too close to the time that we met Harrison Ford. And because it's a continuation, it feels like he needed to fit perfectly. But actually, it kind of doesn't really in the grand scheme of things. If you're sat there kind of going, but he doesn't gesture like that. You're not really watching the film for what you're supposed to be. You need to get out of your own way and just enjoy the film for what it is.
Hi, this is Guy Henry, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks. Enjoy.
So we have a listener's question, but it's a little bit different this week because we have a listener's voice note, which is a first. First, Mark. It's a first. And I want to say publicly on episode 253 of Making Tracks, I am encouraging this, people. Please send in voice notes. Send in your questions. If it's an email, if it's a messenger thing, if it's on socials, Fantha socials, fine. But it was really cool to get this voice note from Anthony Welling, or as he says, Anthony Welling, because I have a slight suspicion he might be from the States. Let's just hear his question. I don't have to read it out.
Hello, Marks. This is longtime listener Anthony, 2066. Knowing that Mark Mulcaster is a member of the UKG, 501st Legion, and the UK Rebel Legion, but Mr. Newbold, I've not heard in a long time of listening that's familiar with anything in the way of Star Wars costuming. So what would it take for Mark Newbold to maybe get suited up in a set of Stormtrooper armor or another Star Wars costume of his choice? And then maybe that could be some episode talk on a future Fantha Tracks episode. So there's my questions, fellas. Looking forward to the answers. And myself, as a member of the 501st Legion, Star Killer Garrison, glory to the Empire.
Well, thanks for that, Anthony. Appreciate that. And yeah, Anthony is a member of Starkiller Garrison, which serves, I believe it's Western and Central Pennsylvania. Fantastic garrison out in the US, and they work very closely with Rebel Legion, so fantastic. So go on then, Mark. What would it take? I mean, I could answer it. Probably a free set of armour from a Novos or RS props, but failing that,
because life doesn't work that way. No. You and me have known each other a long time. I forget how long sometimes you and me have known each other, because you're so wonderful on this podcast. It feels like we've known each other for 5 minutes, but we've actually known each other a lot longer than that, and take that as a compliment. So I think as long as we've been conversing and chatting and been buddies and stuff, I've been saying, this year I'm going to get a costume, Mark. this year I'm going to get a costume. I found a folder the other day when this voice note came through that had a list of prices and places to order the boots from for an X-Wing costume and all the other malarkey. I'm glad I never ordered it now because I've slightly expanded like Starbucks and I don't think it would fit. But that being said, I would like to do a costume. I couldn't be a stormtrooper. I am definitely too tall to be a stormtrooper. Maybe an Emperor's Guard. One of the technicians would be doable, but Emperor's Guard is the one that has kind of got me thinking, maybe, I know it would be hot as balls in there. I might just do a troop in December, but it would be cool.
Yeah, no, Emperor's Guard's not a bad one. I mean, it's one of those ones where I don't have an Emperor's Guard costume, but as long as you've got either an Emperor or a Vader, then it works. If you've only got one random whatever, it can be even one random X-Wing pilot and like 8 Jedi in that, it always feels a bit weird. But like if you have one or two of you, then it kind of works. It doesn't matter really what the costume is. And it kind of comes down to, at that point then, comfortability of the costume. For one reason why I've never actually been drawn to the Emperor's Guard, apart from the fact I'm actually probably not tall enough, really. And again, it's one of those things, I'm 5'8", and so you have to realistically go, well, I can just about get away as a Stormtrooper and just about get away as Boba Fett because I'm kind of more powerful Force 2 kind of Boba Fett. And so with Stormtrooper.
Stormtrooper, definitely, yeah.
But the thing is that, like, yeah, you kind of need the height. And so, I mean, whilst it's not a prerequisite for any of the costume clubs to be of a certain height for a certain costume. I mean, there are some exceptions like Vader, which you probably are the right height. How tall are you? What,
6'4"?
So yeah, you could totally do Vader without having to have ridiculous lifts in your boots and stuff like that. Trying to find the right appropriate costume for your body type based on what you feel comfortable in. Does that make sense? Because actually it doesn't really matter. If you're happy to wear, there's like, 5'7" tall Jawas and stuff like that. And
just to say, Mark, I've retired the bikini. That ain't coming out again. But I'll give other things a go.
Yeah, okay. Maybe Padme's arena outfit.
Snow bunny outfit, yeah.
You have snow. So, I mean, there's loads of different options. It kind of comes down to what you fancy, what you think you could wear, what you could afford as well. And depending on, how much of a costume you want to maybe have a go making yourself, or just kind of quite happy to go shopping and buy the stuff off of the various costume makers around the place, which actually, again, since I started 20 years ago, would be 20 years next year, a whole industry has blossomed from it.
It was interesting when we were at Echo and we spoke to the guys from RS Props at the end of the episode, which was a really nice treat because I think we were pretty much wrapping the episode up and they kind of tapped us on the shoulder and they mentioned the Endor Trooper helmet, which looks fantastic, and straight away I was like, well, actually that'd be kind of cool.
It's a fun one to do, yeah. I mean, I've been kind of working on it kind of slowly in the background. And that's the thing, I tend to take my time with costumes, and that's just partly just down to the fact that, you go, I could buy that jacket, or I could buy whatever vintage or whatever. And it's harder being a Star Wars collector and a Star Wars costumer. It's in terms of financially harder.
Oh, totally.
We've got a year. Let's work on it offline. Let's get you a costume for celebration for next year. But you can.
Dude.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Even if it is a TIE Reserve, which is basically 4 things: your belt, boots, black flight suit.
All right, okay. I've said it now, damn it.
It's on record. Let's wrap this episode up. If you want to be like Anthony and want to send in a voice note or even a video, hell, we can do something with that.
We can do that.
Or just an old-fashioned email, telegram, or carrier pigeon. Mr. Newbold can tell you how you can do it.
I can tell you how I can do it, and this is how you can do it.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
And that's been done for this episode, Mark.
So I think that's about all we've got time for this week. I can't do it again. It was hard enough doing it last week.
It was great. Yeah, you can't pat your head and rub your tummy.
It's trying to do it out of the right rhythm and stuff. And,
it's all about the rhythm.
It's all about the rhythm. So I think on that note especially, we're going to call an end to this week's proceedings. And yeah, we will catch you on the bounce for next week. And in fact, hopefully, Miss Newbot, I will see you on the weekend at MegaCon Birmingham, live at the NEC.
I am very much looking forward to coming along and seeing you, catching up with some of your fellow costumers, chewing the cud and taking a walk and maybe doing a bit of recording. Should be fun.
Everyone, literally the whole freaking galaxy is going to be at MegaCon. Hopefully there might even be some punters as well for us to have photos with. So if you see us, give us a shout, give us a nudge or something special for walking around holding a microphone. Don't be shy, we'd love to talk to you. But until next week's episode, stay safe, take care, and may the Force be with you.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.
I have a 99 and a flake, please.